Okay, it's time to start the webinar. So hi everyone, and welcome to the last Team Dash webinar of the year. I am Karina, the community manager, and today we're going to take a look at what's been happening in the recruitment world this year. We're doing some reflections and also making predictions on what are going to be the trends and focuses in hiring in 2024. So for this webinar, we've partnered up with Meet Frank, an IT headhunting app, to deliver you insights from the job market. And our expert guest speaker today is an international talent sourcing trainer and the founder of the Talent Hunter, Vanessa Roth, all the way from South Africa. It's going to be an hour full of exciting information, so let's get started. So, since a lot of you are here for the first time, let me briefly introduce Team Dash as well. So Team Dash is an easy-to-use platform for applicant tracking, recruitment marketing, and video interviewing. So as a recruiter, you can do everything in one place, from creating and publishing a job ad to making an offer to the winning candidate. It's also the most customizable recruitment software on the market. Every project can be designed according to your needs with custom stages, automations, accesses, you name it. And as most of you are in the middle of choosing an ATS for your team, I recommend booking a product tour with us to learn more. So the link for that is in the chat. And a little spoiler, Team Dash can be a beneficial tool for you to use moving forward into 2024 when it comes to the challenges the employers are most likely to face. But we'll talk about that in a second. So this is our agenda for today. First, I will do a little overview on the statistics from the Team Dash platform. Then Gaurav from Meet Frank will take the stage and talk about their insights. And last but not least, Vanessa is going to share key changes in 2023 and predictions for 2024 in hiring based on her experience. And we also have polls happening throughout the webinar, so make sure to check out that tab and answer those. And also, if you have any questions, then there's a separate tab for that as well. So feel free to ask questions throughout the webinar. And when it's time for those, I'll pick them out and ask the speakers. Okay, but let's start with Team Dash Insights. So we collected data from our platform, and here's a quick overview of some of the most notable changes. So according to the data on our platform, companies are still hiring as much as they did last year. So that actually hasn't changed. However, time to hire has decreased by a third. And that's mostly because there are more candidates in retail, transport, logistics, and healthcare sectors, which means that the employers find the right candidates faster. They don't have to spend that much time finding them and attracting them. Automation has become a part of everyday recruitment for over half of the employers. Recruiters are scheduling interviews automatically and also using automated messages. There's a significant increase of usage of those automatic features and tools in the public sector, so the increase is 19%, and also in retail, which is 30%, but there's growth also in the transport, IT, and logistics sectors as well. So that's just a short overview. And when it comes to the predictions, we also conducted a survey among 15 international HR experts, and here are some of the results combined with the findings from our platform. So the high retention rate will remain a problem, and employers need to invest in employer branding and really creating a positive candidate experience in order to stand out from competitors. And since hiring will be a constant, employers are also looking for cost-effective recruitment solutions, so such as a customizable ATS with a data-driven approach and automations and AI solutions. I might know a platform like that. And since the job market is still candidate-driven and there are more employers than there are candidates, keeping those candidates in the pipeline will be a challenge, which means that having a speedy and transparent communication in a hiring process is critical. It's important to give the candidates feedback quickly, send them process updates, keep them updated, and also share an overview of the hiring process at the end. And that's where automations come in handy. That said, automation and AI will become useful assistants to recruiters. They won't replace recruiters, but rather leave them more time to spend on creating a personal experience for the candidates, because the idea here is to automate actions and not decisions. So this is our short insight. Now, let's see what Karel, the co-founder of Meet Frank, has to say based on their statistics. So I will invite you to the stage now, Karel. Hi.
Yeah. Hi.
Awesome. I can hear you now. It was all my fault before. How are you?
I'm good. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm going to share my screen.
Awesome. Just share your screen and take it away.
Screen. Yeah, so hopefully you can see my screen now as well, and everything works or not.
Yeah, seems to be okay.
Okay, perfect. So as Karin mentioned, my name is Karel. I'm one of the co-founders of Meet Frank. And let me start with the introduction what Meet Frank is. So some of you might not know us so well, and this also kind of provides some level of context of where the data comes from and what is the kind of basis of the insights and the conclusions and maybe some predictions as well. So Meet Frank is this kind of personal career assistant app that was launched in 2017 with an aim to build something a little bit more talent centric than and something with a little bit better user experience than the regular classifieds. So we tried to kind of and still try to provide the safe space where everyone can be available on the job market on their own terms and without any stress. So our kind of primary user group is not active job seekers, but more or less this kind of currently working professionals who want to be up to date with the latest job market trends and the best or the most suitable opportunities that are available for them. So far, there's a little bit over 500,000 app downloads. So just a side note, we're mobile only product and app only product. And we have managed to build a relatively good experience. So our kind of Google and App Store ratings are way beyond the industry average. So it seems to be working, at least to some extent. From the B2B side or from the company side, we're working mostly with startups or technology companies. Of course, there are exceptions like the large corporates in the region, banks, and so on. But roughly like 7,000 companies signed up and 1,500-ish clients that we work together every year. And currently around this, depends on the month, but like 2,000 positions monthly or something like this. And we have worked together with most of the largest startups and scale ups in the region. So most of our business is in Baltics, and around 20% or 1/5 comes from remote. When we look at the user base, so the offers or the kind of talent that we are focused on is 95% white collar, with the engineering related things being the most dominant. So software engineering, project management, DevOps, things like that. the average salary or the minimum salary expectation of the average MeetRank user is a little bit over 3,000 euros, which is almost double of the average salary in the region. And we process this kind of 250,000 applications annually. So there is a somewhat data that we can rely on. And as a subsidiary, we also operate the thing called compensation app in the region, which is real-time compensation data. So when MeetRank is focused on hiring new employees and we get the data out of there, how do people actually kind of apply, and what are the kind of salary offers or for the new positions, then this compensation app is more about the employee retention and the kind of salary movements or compensation movements within startups. So this is something that I think launched almost a year ago, and again, the main clients over here are technology related startups. But okay, let's dig into the data a little. So what has happened in 2023 and how does it compare with the previous years? Just a kind of side note, most of the data over here is based on Baltics. So Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. So first of all, this year has been relatively rough. So in the perspective of a job seeker, the number of offers compared with the high point of 2021 have dropped almost 3x. So the general kind of market decline isn't so heavy. But now if we start looking at the kind of more high-end positions, then the drop is actually massive. And it doesn't only come from the fact that there's less offers available on the market. There's also this faster time to hire that is almost 2x up compared with Q4 of 21 or Q1 of 22. So meaning that there isn't so much kind of offer accumulation on the market anymore as it was before, because of the offers that come on the market also go off significantly quicker than they did before. And surprisingly, because the competition for one position is so much higher, when we look at the Baltics, then 2023 didn't bring on any salary increase from the new offers that are offered on the market. Instead, the average is around 2% lower compared with 2022, which is might be a little bit surprising if we also kind of factor in the inflation. But this is what we have seen. So the moment when it became a little bit easier to hire talent, then also the compensation fell a little. So and obviously when there's less offers available, the number of average applicants has increased significantly for one offer. So reaching around this 20 applicants per offer at the moment. But the fact that there's less offers, there's also this kind of new competition, especially in the Baltic markets, which is remote offers. So at the moment, around 25% of the Baltic applications go outside of the region. So more and more people are picking up remote opportunities where the company's headquarters are not in the Baltics anymore. And this is a trend that is growing. It's growing slowly, but it's growing steadily. So we expect this to actually become a little bit stronger trend next year. And the reason is that during COVID, a lot of companies went remote. And now in 2023, a lot of local companies have switched over from remote to hybrid. So they still expect people to visit the office once a week or twice a week, but especially kind of software engineering talent. There's a lot of people who prefer going fully remote and traveling around the world or going away during the winter period or whatever is their motivation. But we're seeing that they are searching for, and they're really kind of prone to apply positions that are fully remote. And most of the companies that offer that are actually outside of Baltics. Yeah, so so the average applicants, it's average in that sense. There's a still extremely strong bias on the market. This kind of 80-20 principle when we talk about the marketplace. So where around 20% of the companies actually get 80% of the applicants. The last year has a little bit kind of eased the situation, but the problem is still there. So that when a user is presented with a lot of options, they tend to move towards companies that they recognize. And I don't know if I would ask here, name from every participant, like name 5 companies where you would like to work for. We could start seeing that there's similarities or clusters of companies that constantly pop up, and the same thing happens in our marketplace as well. So the average is a little bit kind of misconceiving, maybe, because like some companies get massive amounts of candidates and others are actually kind of really lagging behind. So, but looking at the numbers in general, it might seem like a good thing that the average number of applicants per offer has increased. But when we try to dig into the data a little, we see that it's not so positive story if you are at the end of the hiring company. So when we have been building up the product, we have roughly divided our users into 3 large groups. So the first group is active, so active job seekers. So we identify active job seekers in a way like average active job seeker makes multiple applications in an extremely short period of time, normally in one day. So they make 5, 6, sometimes 20 applications in a day. And these people are like in a desperate need of a new job. Maybe desperate is a little bit harsh, but they're in a real need for a new job. And when you cater this user group, they normally care about the position and the position match. And they don't focus on the company or the kind of company's mission or culture so much. Then we have a second large group that we call semi-active. So these people actually still consume quite a lot of job offers, but they make extremely few applications. So they make 1 to 3 applications in a year. And they are kind of ready to move, but they will move if and only if they find something better. And the something better is different for every individual. So it's some of them want to work remotely. Some of them feel that they need to get a promotion, or they have some kind of specific industry or market where they want to work. And the last group is passive. So the ones who don't make any applications. Some of them still kind of browse job openings. A lot of them don't. The huge misconception that with passive is that passive talent is extremely happy in their current position. So it's actually not true. The biggest reason why passive doesn't do any actions is this kind of fear of rejection, or just they don't have the time or the motivation to start this kind of new process. So that if you want to get the passive to move, you need to kind of guarantee some level of success to them. So invite them to a process and assure them that, hey, you are likely to be selected. And you would be surprised what the response rates or success rates are in the current market. So surprisingly, like almost 80% of the users who view job openings in 2023 don't make a single application. So they don't make any actions, but they constantly come and browse different companies and different job opportunities. So they are by far the largest group that is out there, the largest group that is actually interested, but they are, as the kind of definition says, passive. Now, when we look at the ones who actually apply, then this is one of the biggest changes that we have seen. So the semi-active, which is a significantly larger user group than the active, has declined. So there's less people in there. And at the end of this year, they're making less than half of the applications. And like 2 years ago, they made around 77% of the applications. And on the other side, we're seeing that the active ones, the ones who make multiple applications, at the moment, I think the average is around 10, is increasing. So what we're seeing on the market is that, yeah, the number of applications has kind of remained the same, even if the number of openings have decreased. But the applications, a lot of the applications have been made by the same small group of people. So compared with 2022, you get applicants who actually are part of maybe 5 processes, 8, 9, 10, instead of getting applicants who have decided to apply only for your company or only to you and someone else. So this has created the kind of situation where there's this kind of really strong overlap between different kind of applicant pools on different companies. So the general kind of number or the kind of applicant number per offer might be higher, but probably it comes from the cost of quality a little. And engaging this kind of semi-active and passive is still actually a really, really relevant thing. Talking about the average applicant a little bit more. Even though the competition is lower, the average applicant still goes through around 12 job offers before they make the first application. So none of the companies are out of the woods yet. So there's still quite heavy competition, especially for the high-end talent. And now we see another kind of behavioral pattern that happens with the active or not so active candidates. So the applications that you get, like half of the applications happen within the first hour when the user found the opening, and the rest of them happen significantly later. So the average time to convert at the moment is 2.6 days, which creates like a graph like this. So retargeting itself has become more and more important. So the active job seekers who are kind of really, really motivated to get a job will make the application instantly within the first hour. And the ones who need a little bit more time, or the ones who don't make so many applications, they actually take 3+ days to make the decision. And if you retarget them and remind yourself or kind of somehow manage to engage, you can significantly increase the quality of the talent pool and also the quantity of the talent pool. That was this kind of really short overview of what the user is doing, what the talent is doing. Now looking at the recruiters, then the situation where we are at the moment, where the average job offer gets more applicants, has also kind of brought back some problems that we saw 4 or 5 years ago. So first of all, ghosting is back. So this is like, and this is like a massive problem. So around 35% 35 to 40% of the applicants at the moment get any response from the recruiter. It differs a little bit from market to market, but like 18 months ago, the response rates were 60% plus. So as there's more applicants, there's probably less time, and there's less pressure to provide a really kind of quality service. Yet, like this is this kind of collective fuck up, because like when we look at what triggers an application, then one really bad experience or this kind of coasting actually drives people away. So when a person applies to somewhere and gets a response really quickly, you can see that they are more prone to make other applications as well. And if they get ghosted, they normally leave the job market because they don't want to kind of engage into experience that is relatively kind of negative. And talking about recruiter activity, so what we have seen now in 2023 is that the recruiter initiated sourcing has also declined almost 3x. So again, somewhat kind of logical. So that because there's organic level of candidates coming in, then they don't actually kind of bother to make the first step on their own. But there's a lot of people on the market at the moment who are kind of waiting for recruiters to kind of reach out to them. But this is the biggest surprise that we have seen, is that once the market turned, the recruiter activity turned back as well. So that the motivation or the kind of, I don't know, maybe motivation isn't the right word, but this kind of initiative to produce better results has dropped significantly. But looking at the numbers, if you would decide to kind of be a little bit more proactive on the market, it actually kind of provides massive results really quickly. So this is one of the use cases, I think, from Latvia. So where the client got 82% of positive answer rate, and most of the positive answers from the talent side happened in 24 hours. So the talent is actually really open for this kind of discussions at the moment. The problem is that the recruiter activity has dropped. So if you want to kind of hire really high quality talent at the moment, our recommendation is to be a little bit more active on the market. But yeah, we more or less kind of expect this trend to continue, because like the organic inflow of candidates will probably increase in Q1 next year. But yeah, I think that's more or less it from the slides. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. This was really insightful, very interesting, and sad to hear that ghosting is back. But automation is something where that can probably help with that, automating the confirmation emails and process updates and all that. You also mentioned that there's an increase for job offers for hybrid work and remote work. We have a question from Marian, and she's actually asking where to find developers who are fine with fully on-site work, meaning you work from Monday till Friday in the office. So what's your take on that? Are there even those types of job opportunities out there, and are they popular?
So there's actually surprisingly a lot of job offers that require full on-site. In some cases, it's inevitable because you work with projects that just don't allow remote work, mostly for security reasons. And there are developers who are kind of still willing to go to the office every day. But we need to take into account that average developer is relatively introvert. So it's not their environment. and they still prefer to do this kind of hybrid or full remote. So it makes your life 5x more difficult if you require the kind of full on-site, and probably you need to kind of compensate it somehow to make it worthwhile for the developer.
So the idea here would be to offer more flexible ways of working for them, at least a few days from home, potentially.
So that's hybrid. Or it needs to be extremely kind of exciting project, or you just need to kind of up the salary or stock options or whatever to kind of motivate them to kind of come out of their comfort zone.
Understandable. Awesome. Well, we don't have any other questions anymore, but if you stay around, or you can ask your questions in the chat as well, we'll forward them to Goddard, or if he stays here, he can reply to them in the chat. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay, so now it's time for our next guest, Vanessa. I will invite her to the stage.
Hello.
Hello again. How are you?
Fine, and yourself? That was a really interesting session. Thanks, Cara.
Awesome. I'm happy you enjoyed it too. So yeah, share your screen and take it away.
Excellent. Well,
share your insights.
Thank you. Thank you for having me as a guest. It's great to be here. And what I want to talk about is the year that was and the year that will be. So just a couple of my thoughts around what happened this year, what was good, what wasn't so great, and what we can expect in 2024. So again, thanks for the invite. I'm just going to quickly introduce myself for those people who don't know who I am. I'm seeing lots of hearts coming up on the reaction, so that's brilliant. I don't know who it is, but thank you. Just by means of an introduction, I'm a global talent sourcing trainer. So I literally train teams all around the world on how to be better sources of talent. So if anyone's tired of hitting up your local job boards, paying a fortune for LinkedIn Recruiter, and you want to start 2024 with all the knowledge of how to look for people in the right places, events, GitHub, Stack, that's the kind of thing that I do. So helping recruiters to be more resourceful when it comes to finding talent. I was very busy this year. I actually built an online academy. So if any of you want to go and get some free training, there is free training in my academy. So I invite you to go and have a look. I also do a lot of consulting around recruitment, personal branding, talent attraction. It's all linked. It all goes together now. We can't separate them for too much longer. So that is my sweet spot. And at the moment, I'm actually in South Africa. I have just moved to the wonderful city, or should I say town, of Plettenberg Bay, which is on the Garden Route. I invite you to go and Google it. It is a really beautiful part of the world. And my superpower is my ADHD, or ADD in high definition, as I like to refer to it. But guys, there's more to me than that. You've got to have some side hustles these days. So I do a lot of keynote speaking. I recently was in Amsterdam doing the opening keynote for Sourcing Summit, which was great. And I'm really putting in some really nice, interesting travel plans for next year. Excellent. Hedy says, fellow ADHD people, fantastic. I love it. When I'm not working, I like to have my camera in my hand, taking photographs. And here are some of my photographs. So yeah. Really good to meet you all and to have you here. The best way to probably stay in touch with me, I run a very active Facebook group. I have a very active YouTube channel, so you can hit me up on either of those two. And yeah, come and say hello and let me know what you think of my content. So guys, let's get started on 2023, because I'm going to put it like this. It was an interesting year in the recruitment world. The big announcement, the big shock in 2023 was that generative AI, or ChatGPT, had launched in November last year. OpenAI kind of made AI available to us mere mortals, and it had a big impact, not only on the recruitment industry, on a lot of businesses. I do have to feel sorry for the creative industry at the moment. Your UI, your UX people, I think they're being affected the most. Content writers, copywriters. So that was the big disruption that happened this year. It wasn't just purely down to the recruitment space, but it will affect the kind of people that we're going to be recruiting in the future. So I'm going to to talk about that more in the predictions for 2024. The recession also moved across from the US to Europe, had a much bigger impact this year than it did in previous years. A lot of knock-ons. So there was a reduction in a lot of hiring for a lot of companies, which we saw from, Coral Stats. Also, we saw that there was a lot of tech layoffs in the tech space. What had become a very much a candidate-driven market during COVID actually turned to an employee-driven market. So it was really interesting to watch. Didn't necessarily mean that our lives as recruiters globally was easy because of this, but it was certainly interesting to see. So I see a lot of the votes in the polls. The first poll that you put up about what is your greatest challenge been this year in the recruiting space, and literally I think it was 1 or 2 was the global skills shortage. So, along with the growing skills gap, this is becoming more of an issue. I think it's more prevalent in the tech space where we're looking for people with certain coding languages. We just can't find them. I think sometimes maybe I should be focusing on building a cloning machine because that will actually help us to have more people with the same skill set. But this is something that's only going to get worse, I'm afraid. I'm contacted by a lot of companies internationally saying, Vanessa, we want to focus on Africa. We just don't have the skills where we're based in Europe or the US, North America. Who can we tap into to find these skills? And I think that's going to be more of a trend as the workforce kind of goes global. And also from recruiters, from yourselves, a lot of people being laid off, a lot of tech layoffs. I mean, we know about the FANGs, Meta laying people off this year, which kind of flooded the market with tech people, which then kind of made it an employer-driven market. A lot of people, taking cuts in salaries. These are the tech people. But also for recruiters, there was a lot of recruiters who were laid off. I've seen a lot of recruiters, especially in the US, having to cross-skill. So take their skills, what do you learn in recruiting, good people skills, relationship building, and actually go into different industries in order to still be making a living and getting through things. So one of the interesting things I actually read recently was yesterday, was how you remember the first year of COVID, there was suddenly a huge demand for recruiters. Everyone wanted recruiters. Everyone was fighting. The war for talent was there. Now it kind of feels like it's the opposite. So what the predictions are is that the market for recruiters globally is never going to go back to what it was like during COVID in that first year when the demand was really high, and it probably won't even go back to pre-COVID levels. So we've got to make sure that, if you're a recruiter and you want to stay in the game, it's all about staying relevant, staying up to date, and a world of generative AI, bringing your human to the table. So in a wrap, 2023, not the easiest year if you were a recruiter, but hoping to see some improvements in 2024, but probably after the first 6 months, I would predict as we go into the new year. So let's have a look and talk a little bit more about 2024, because we all need to get ready for it. We need to make sure we're on our A games and we know what's coming. So I think we've all realized 2 things, is that generative AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And second of all, that good recruiters who are doing their jobs properly and not being lazy are actually not going to lose their jobs to generative AI. I think we're figuring out that we can use it to, take up some of those boring admin menial tasks, to increase our recruitment processes, make them more effective. So it's a good thing, but we've got to use it correctly. So as I've always said, is that like anything, I mean, I don't know if you remember when LinkedIn was going to do away with recruiters, and then job boards was going to do away with recruiters. It's not going to happen with generative AI. So, we've all been through this. We've heard these stories before in different shapes and forms. It's just what it is. Also, VR doesn't stand for Vanessa Roth, and I understand the confusion, but virtual reality in assessments is going to become a thing because there's a lot of, should I say, worry around the assessment process. Who's using ChatGPT to write their CVs, to answer assessment questions? VR is hoping to try and, fix that. And also automations in recruitment are going to become far more prevalent in 2024 as there's APIs, as generative AI software start talking to each other. We are going to be far slicker in our processes, which again, I don't think is such a bad thing. Let's free up more time, but it's what we do with that time that's really important. So if us recruiters are being sensible and we're using that time to be more human and to spend more time talking with candidates, amazing. Okay, that's what we should be doing, right? So really, really want to just highlight it, go play with it. It's not going anywhere. These people, ChatGPT, Norbard are AGIs, generative AIs. Absolutely. There's lots of other softwares out there that are generative AI tools. You can get MetaView for interviewing. I mean, even LinkedIn Recruiters putting in an AI element. There's just so much of it around there at the moment. So also, I think that from a global perspective, things we have no control over, but will have an impact on the recruitment industry. You know, there are two major wars going on at the moment, Ukraine and Middle East. Just after, you know, a situation like COVID, we don't have control over these situations. However, it is going to have a knock-on effect on the world's economy. So just something to keep an eye out for. Also, next year is a massive year for elections. There's a lot of big leading nations that are having general elections where a lot of people are waiting to see what is the outcome of this. Where do we position ourselves? So just bear all of this in mind. I'm not saying it's doom and gloom, but we probably are going to need the first 6 months kind of just to settle. Let's see what happens in these situations and then carry on going with these things. Also, from a recruiter's perspective, the market is not as buoyant yet. I do think it will get a lot more buoyant. We will get a lot more hiring happening. But what is interesting to see is that there's definitely a greater need for recruiters in Asia and Africa. So definitely more of a focus of growing businesses, economies, and those kind of countries that were seen as third world areas before. Seems to be that that's where there's a big focus as the kind of delving into the skill set continues. So keep an eye on those regions, especially if you are looking for work. Another thing in our industry, which has been coming for a long time, is all about data analysis. And data analysis is needs to be much more closely aligned with recruitment. So instead of yourself as a recruiter turning around and saying something like, no, I can't find people with those skills because only 3 of them exist in the country, you actually present the data. These are the 3 people. These are where they are working. You know, if you've got a client that is paying a salary that is too low and you need to actually get them to up the salary, go with evidence, go with data. So these are the people I've spoken to. These are the salaries they are currently on. It's not good enough for us just as recruiters turn around and say, oh, that salary is ridiculous. I'm never going to find someone. Take the data to the table and literally show people what you are talking about. So I'm going to leave time for questions at the end. I've just got one more slide to talk to, so let's move on to that. And you're welcome to put questions into the chat too. This is also something that Carl touched on, is at the state of work. Really interesting at the moment. The question that someone asked there is, where do you find developers who want to go into the office full time? Find people who are maybe new parents. Find people who've got children, young babies at home. It's going to be difficult to work in those environments. Any young kids. Those are the people that I'm finding are, you know, quite happy to go back into an office because working at home is actually just too difficult. Not because they dislike their children, but from a concentrating perspective and being able to have meetings, it is a little bit more difficult. So, you know, COVID forced everyone to go remote. Then we've had like 18 months of going back to the office. Do we stay remote? Do we do hybrid? What does hybrid look like? And it's actually just added such an extra dimension to our roles as recruiters, because we're not now only looking for scarce skills like, you know, Kotlin developers, and we're trying to hit like a DE&I, should I say, target or goal, looking for females. We're also looking for people that potentially might have to go back into the office 3 days a week. So we need to think about that, you know, how do we get companies to understand? And one of the ways is that maybe we look at 4-day work weeks, which are becoming a thing. There's a lot of companies that are trialing it, seems to be working really well. A lot of people who own their own businesses are doing the same. So maybe that could be a little bit of a trade-off. Come into the office, but only 4 days a week, and you can have the 5th day off for the same kind of salary. It's all about the negotiations that are happening around the table. Also, where I think there's going to be more of a focus, especially post, you know, COVID, where this became a hot topic, was more focus on people's mental health, a work-life balance. I think people have realized that it's not all about work. And this also ties in nicely with my last point, which I'm going to talk about, which is talent attraction. You know, people want to work for companies that take their mental health seriously. They understand about having a balance. It's not all about working for that big bank, earning a massive salary anymore. It's literally people want to be happy, and that's really important. Also, as mentioned, with all of the ChatGPTs, AI tools out there, recruiters have to be more human. You know, we've spoken for a long time about outreach message personalization. You know, what are you saying to get the candidate's attention? You want them to think that the email that you've just sent is predominantly, it's only for them. You know, you want them to say, wow, Vanessa really did her homework on me, and this couldn't have been sent to any of my colleagues. That's really important. It's still really important. But recruiters also need to work harder at their building relationships with candidates. There needs to be more meetings where possible, more coffee conversations, more of a human connection that has to happen, because this is what's going to separate those mediocre recruiters who can be replaced by generative AI tools from the really good recruiters who stand out, have the human element and that human touch. So that's becoming a big focus. Also, video is going to be big. Watch out for YouTube. TikTok, I know a lot of us have ignored TikTok for a while, hoping it would go away because it's irritating and our kids watch it all the time. But guys, seriously, they have big plans in the recruitment space. There's already a lot of recruitment happening on there. My advice is get involved, sign up, have a look, use it in your personal capacity, and think about how you can start incorporating it into your recruiting sourcing strategies for next year, because whether we like it or not, it's not only the youngsters anymore who are on this platform. It's the fastest growing social media platform for a reason. You would be surprised at the kind of people you will find having a TikTok account these days. So don't get left behind. TikTok and YouTube, get involved in these and start checking them out. YouTube channels are very powerful. And video is just kind of leading at the moment in the way YouTube's coming up with YouTube Shorts, you know, platforms like TikTok, Facebook Reels, Instagram Stories. It's kind of where it's all going. So we don't want to miss the boat on that. And my final point before questions, and this is an important one because it should have happened this year, but it didn't. 2024, your employer branding, it must become a must-have as opposed to a nice-to-have. So we have to think harder about talent attraction, retention of good candidates, because as we can see, there's a global skills shortage. You know, it's difficult to find candidates these days. So what is your company doing to attract the best talent? And also, from a recruiting perspective, you know, whose role and who should be in charge of talent attraction? And for me, that has to come from the top. Has to come from CEO, MD. Everyone is a brand ambassador. Everyone's got to be talking about your company, putting in a good light. It should not just be the responsibility of the recruitment and the talent sourcing team. Yes, they play a big part in it, as they're often the first people to make contact with candidates. However, to help the situation, everyone needs to get involved. Employer branding is a team sport, and that's really important. Exactly. So I'm done. I'm happy to answer any questions or have a discussion. For those of you who don't know me, you are welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm probably the most active there. And again, if you want to have a look at some free training, there we go. And I'm going to put up my contact details. So yeah, I hope that that's my peer who's commenting and getting so involved. I really hope it is. But for the rest of you, Karina, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Vanessa. This was so exciting and many good points, and a lot of the things I guess we can all agree on. And we also had a poll of about what do you think will be the main focus in recruitment for 2024, and that reflects basically all the topics we all covered. AI and automation, savings, employer branding are top 3 most popular ones. You talked about the importance of employer branding as well, and since the life for recruiters is becoming a bit more difficult, and it's important to have a strong employer brand. How do you see the recruiter's own personal brand playing into the whole concept?
Hugely, to be honest with you, Karina. So how did you find me? We've never met in person. We've never worked together before. You found me via my personal brand, right? And you said, Van, we'd love you to be, a guest on our webinar. And that's the power of having a personal brand. Here I sit based in South Africa in a beautiful country, yet I get to work so globally because of my personal brand. So yes, 100%. Personal brand for recruiters is going to be a huge thing in 2024. I think it's not just about attracting candidates. Yes, it's that for sure, but also people don't realize how often you are cross-referenced. So you send someone an email, they're going to go and check you out on Facebook, where a lot of people think, no, Facebook's my personal platform. Why are they going to go there? But the reason they go to Facebook is because they want to see, are there any mutual connections, maybe a friend of theirs that knows you, that they can get backup or a little bit of kudos on you to say, should I be talking to this person or not? It's going to be really, really important. Don't just think that people look at you on LinkedIn. You are going to be Googled, just as we should be doing to our candidates too. So a very clean and professional, but also being a human being, digital footprint is what I really, really recommend for any recruiter who's going to succeed, next year and the years beyond.
Absolutely. Thanks. Please feel free to ask Vanessa questions. We haven't gotten in any others yet, but if you look at, you did a little overview of this year as well and the changes. Were there any surprises or anything that you didn't see coming?
For this year, I didn't, to be honest, the surprise was what a massive impact ChatGPT and generative AI would have, and how many people think it's all right to use it badly. That for me is always a shock. I mean, we saw people that never post on LinkedIn now having wonderful long posts, upping their email. Suddenly the content was coming out of our ears. Everyone thought they were an author. Everyone was, putting together books. And a lot of it you could see was actually done when you run it through tools like AIcheckertool.com. That it was actually all generated by ChatGPT. Now, where do we stand on that? Is it one of those situations of well done for them on writing the book, which they might have wanted to write for a long time, but because they didn't do it themselves, they would have had to have very good prompts. Is it still their content? And for me, it's just become such a gray area. So for me, the surprise was how quick the uptake was of generative AI tools, ChatGPT, the usage of it, but how badly people were using it, which is, for me, was a bit of a shock. Like, do you not think people wouldn't realize that this isn't actually coming from you? You don't sound like a human being. I mean, no one speaks like ChatGPT, thank goodness. If you have got friends who speak like ChatGPT, I really feel sorry for you, because they are very long-winded and boring.
Yeah, I guess there was a huge hype on that. It was a really exciting tool in the beginning, but quickly you see that people don't know how to use it. And it's more of I tend to use it as just a helpful tool to generate ideas or some starting copy.
Exactly.
Not really, because it takes away so much authenticity. And that's kind of the whole center of the employer brand and personal brand as well, so that you can actually attract the people authentically and create those personal relationships so that
absolutely
they as well.
Which ties into your question around personal brand. How authentic and genuine is your personal brand? Because if it's not, you're going to have problems. Again, separating those good recruiters from the average and lazy recruiters is going to become a massive issue.
There was a question, what was the site for the ChatGPT text checking again?
I see Therese put it in there. Thank you very much, Therese.
Cool. Awesome.
There's a couple of them. Just have to go to Google and put in there, like, a ChatGPT detector or something like that, and there's loads out there now.
And I have one more question. So you mentioned TikTok becoming well, it already is a huge thing, but probably not that popular, especially in the Baltics, I think, when it comes to recruitment. Do you have any tips? Are you on TikTok?
So I am. I don't think I'm using it correctly at the moment. It's something that I also need to focus on next year. I've been focusing a lot more on my YouTube channel. So I saw a question there about how do you recommend utilize ChatGPT correctly and effectively. There's actually a video launching on my YouTube channel before the end of the week about that. So keep an eye on it. But from a TikTok perspective, I need to start using it more for short video content. It's a goal that I'm setting myself for next year, because I just think that it's the future. You know, I can do sourcing tips online. I can add them to my YouTube channel. So I'm using it. I'm on there. You can find me Van_Roth. But a lot of it at the moment is a lot of beach scenes and me just doing cool stuff around my new hometown. But you're welcome to check it out.
Awesome. So exciting. Thank you. I actually got one more question. Then we talk about the personal branding and how important it is to be out there and create content that's also informative, useful, and use more of the video format. Do you have any advice for more of the, if we think about sourcers, they tend to be sometimes a bit more introverted, a bit more like shy and not super excited about being in the spotlight. So do you have any recommendations or any encouragement for them, or how could they start without being right out there or putting too much, because it's very energy consuming for them? So any kind of advice around that?
So Karina, it doesn't actually have to be them in the video. So it could be the hiring manager. It could be the lead developer on the team. It could just be someone who's really outgoing on the team that you're hiring for. You know, just get them to give us 60 minutes. This is the job. This is what we do every day. We'd love you to join us. You know, it's about using video, but it doesn't necessarily need to be the recruiter or the talent sourcer. Talent sources, you know, it could just be a one-to-one video. It's not like you're making a massive video for a huge YouTube channel. You know, it's literally just from one person to another. Send it on LinkedIn, send it on a WhatsApp, whatever it might be. And I think once you just have to get started, because once you get started, you start getting some positive feedback. You get a better response than like spamming 50 people for one job. Then you're going to realize, actually, let me make a little bit of an effort, even if it's just one morning a week, to put a few videos together, and let's see what happens. It's easier when you get started, put it that way.
Absolutely, exactly. The focus doesn't have to be you. It's more of using the format and just being more active around that. Well, awesome. Thank you so much. This was a very insightful presentation.
Awesome.
And
thank you so much.
Yes, and see you around in the virtual environment. And have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Cheers.
So we're coming to the end of our webinar. Very exciting insights. So as you could see, employer brand is in the focus next year, and also the personal brand around that. And the job market seems to be a bit more active. However, it's competitive. Candidates are applying to a lot of different places, so it's very important to keep them in the pipeline, the valuable ones, and not ghost them. Maybe use automation to make sure that everybody gets their confirmation emails and they stay updated with the hiring process. And apparently, it's the best time to source as well. And to do that successfully, it's also important to think about your personal brand and make sure that it's authentic. So yeah, this is it. We will announce our webinar schedule for the next year soon. So make sure to follow us on LinkedIn, Team Dash page on LinkedIn, and we'll also send out information in our bi-weekly newsletter. So hope you liked it. Thank you to both of the speakers, Karel and Vanessa. And I wish you a nice holiday time and see you next year. Bye.